Hello boys and girls, welcome back to Mr. Blackman's art class. Today we're going to be working on a project. You should have already watched the video about dragonflies and learned the facts about dragonflies. They're pretty cool. I like the fact when the video says that the dragonflies can move their four wings separately of one another. So I thought that was pretty cool. Excuse me. All right, so when we look at a dragonfly, we're going to talk about symmetry today. That means that when we look at a dragonfly, they have the same number of wings on this side of their body as they do on this side, and they also have the same amount of legs, okay? So symmetry is going to be our word. For this project, it's a fairly simple one. You need a little strip of construction paper. You can do any color. You can do, also you will need a piece of white paper, just a small scrap. You will need a marker. I'm going to do a blue dragonfly, so I'm going to use a blue marker. Maybe a couple of wiggly eyes if you have those at your house. If not, don't worry about it. We made eyes before in our last lesson. You can draw them and cut them out with scissors. You will need a pair of scissors. You will need a hole punch. Now, if you don't have a hole punch, maybe you can improvise with something else. I don't have two straws, but I had a chopstick. So I'm going to use a chopstick for my demonstration because I used a straw in my finished product. And a drawing pencil. So those are the only supplies that you'll need for today, okay? All right, let's get started. All right, so for the first part of our dragonfly making, I've got a long piece of paper that's just a color blue, it's fun. And you're gonna be fan folding back and forth when you start to do this. So I'm going to just use my eyes and think about maybe about an inch. I'm gonna fold my paper back. It's like when you make a fan out of a piece of paper, you fold back and forth. And then I'm gonna rotate my paper and I'm gonna flip my paper back. That's two folds. Flip it over. This is going to be another fold. That was three. Flip it over. 4. Flip it over. 5. Flip it over. 6. I'm kind of doing this with the amount of paper that I have, so if your paper is smaller, that's okay. You can just kind of gauge it as far as you want it to be. All right, I think I'm going to stop right there. So our second step is we now have this fan folded strip of paper. You need to make a hole in the center of your square, okay? So if you happen to have a hole punch, that would work, okay? If not, maybe you could use some scissors, get an adult to help you with scissors. So I'm gonna pop right through. Hey, there's some little dots. Maybe if you don't have wiggly eyes, you could use your dots to help you make eyes. All right, and now I have a fan fold with lots of dots. Okay, so this is going to be the body of my dragonfly. All right, so while I have it like this, I'm going to slide my chopstick. You could use a pencil, you could use a chopstick, you could use a straw, and I'm going to make that the part of my puppet. So that's going to be the body. Now, I'm going to take this long piece that's left over and I'm going to curve it around. I'm sliding my stick out a little bit. And I'm going to make him a head by gluing this strip to my first little fan fold right there. So I'm going to grab a glue stick and I'm going to put a pretty good amount of glue on the tip of that sheet of paper because I really want it to stick when it gets where it's going. And I'm going to fold it over just like that. I love paper sculpture. This is pretty cool, and I love puppets. So I'm gonna hold that with my fingers right there. I just kind of slid it down and I pinched it together. My stick can still move inside of my puppet, so that's okay. So you can see that down in there. He's okay. If you want to shape your head a little bit and make it a little more round, you could do that. All up to you. You can kind of play with it. All right, so I've got the body of my puppet made. So the next step, I'm going to set that aside and let that dry while I'm going to be making the wings. So here we go. Let me set this over and let it dry. All right, so for your wings, you only need a very small piece of paper, and I like the paper that maybe goes in your printer. It's a little thinner, and the goal is to make it flutter a little bit when you're finished. So you want your paper to be thin, not thick. So you may have a piece of construction paper, copy paper. If not, you could use a page out of a magazine, or you could find a piece of paper from your tablet from school for your writing, your journal paper. All right, I'm going to draw. Now remember, we want this symmetrical, so I'm going to take my paper, whatever you have, fold it in half. Make sure you got it right there. That's going to be right on the back of the dragonfly, and his wings are going to go this way and that way. So we need 2 at the top, 2 and 2 at the bottom. So I'm going to make them connected. So I'm going to make sure I know where my folded edge is, and that's where I'm going to start drawing. So I'm going to, if you want to use your finger, you could kind of trace it out and make it into a shape if you have a problem with drawing the wings. But I'm going to kind of sketch it out with my pencil and make them kind of long and floppy, because you want them to have a little bit of weight to them. And so if you were, you could kind of use your finger as a guide if you wanted to do that. So it doesn't make it quite so hard. And then I want my wings to kind of touch, because they overlap. Overlap means one thing goes over the top of something else. So they overlap a little bit, even though they move independently of one another. I'm going to kind of trace around my finger again. I can kind of go around the edge and make it a little bigger. See, I'm improvising because I really don't have a true pattern. I can use my finger and come back in there and make that line a little sharper. All right, so now I have, 2 parts that look like wings. If I turn it this way, you can see it looks like overlapping wings. And now, because I have it drawn on the folded edge, when I start to cut these out, I'll have 4. Okay, watch how this works. So this is my folded edge. I'm going to start cutting. Remember, when you're cutting, hold your scissors straight and turn your paper. Remember, we talk about that in class all the time. Now, I'm not going to cut them in 2. I'm going to come and stop. And then I'm going to turn my paper, turn my paper. I guess it would be okay if you had 4 separate wings, but I want to keep mine together because they'll weigh a little more. All right, don't need my scrap, but I'm going to hold on to it. I may use it for another project later, maybe for eyes. All right, so now if I open up my wings, I've got 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. Now you can make them all fancy if you'd like, and I did on mine. And you can lay this over your scrap of paper, and you can put an edge on these if you like. Kind of trace on the edge so the marker's going part on your paper and part on your scrap paper on the back, because you don't want to get it on the surface you're working on, because your parents may not be too happy with me if you do that, but you know. So let's try to use something underneath our paper when we're using markers. So it's called a blotter, so we don't get things on the counter or on the table that you're working on. I didn't draw that line on this side, but I'm going to make it come right to the middle and meet. You can kind of do that with your eyes and measure. All right, so didn't quite get that edge right there. I'm going to go back and touch it up. All right, and I'm going to kind of go around the edge. I'm trying to move fast. I may make mistakes. I may need to go back and correct some things. All right, and then I'm going to make maybe a pattern, because when you saw the video and you were looking at the dragonfly's wings, they had like glassy looking wings, and you could almost see through them, and they had texture. So not only were they symmetrical, the same on both sides, they had texture. And so we're going to add some texture lines in here. Texture and symmetry, those are your words. All right, so there you go. I'm going to do the bottom set and I'm going to do the top set, but I don't want them to be just alike, so I'm going to offset my lines. So I'm not going to put my lines exactly where my first ones went. I want it to have a little bit of character, so when I look at my two wings, they're not looking like all the same wing, they're looking like two separate ones. So I'm kind of move my lines around, and they don't have to be perfect. All right, now I fancied up my wings a little bit here, and I'm going to be gluing it onto my puppet when I'm ready to get that far. All right, so now we can bring back in our stick with our paper, and it should be set by now, should be dry. And I'm going to pretend that this part is my head and this part is my wiggly waggly body, okay? All right, so I just happen to have some wiggly eyes. But if you don't have wiggly eyes, don't freak out. You can do the same thing we did on our last project, where you just draw your circles, maybe about the same size. And if you would like to, I'm gonna slide these over here. If you would like to, you could go back to your little giblets you have there and use those to make your eyes. Look at that, cool. So we're improvising, that's a good thing. All right, there we go. And you could cut those out and add them to your head on your dragonfly. Let me cut those out real quick. See, scrap paper is a good thing to have. Can be your friend when you need it. So those kind of look like jiggly eyes too. So anytime you don't have the exact same things that I'm using, you can always improvise. And that's okay, because that just lets us know that you can think about how you can use materials in different ways. All right, we're almost done here. Do a little more gluing and we'll be set to go. So I have my eyes. I'm going to hold on to my scraps. I may need them later. And I'm going to flip them over, pick them up with my glue stick, rub it around, and look at there. I have an eye. And I'm going to do the same thing here. Remember, if you're trying to pick up some things sometimes and it doesn't want to stick, you can't, it's kind of tiny to move around. If you put a little touch of glue on your finger, you can pick things up just like a magnet. And I'm going to put his eye there. Whoops. Come on. I wanted to stick to my finger. All right, there we go. Ah, look. Now he's beginning to look more like a dragonfly. All right, this is a little tricky, and I think I did it okay. I'm going to flip him over, and I'm going to flatten out one of my places. My pencil's trying to follow me. Hey, Mr. Pencil, stay over there. All right, and I'm going to glue. You may need somebody to help you hold this when you do this, but that's okay. I'm going to put a little bit of glue back there. And then I'm going to take my wings, because I want to see them up. I'm going to flip them over and stick it to the paper. And I'm going to set that back and let it dry. And then we have dragonflies. See, I did this one with a straw, just happened to have a straw. And this one I had a stick, I improvised. And this one I had eyes, little wiggly eyes. And this one I made my own, but they're pretty cool. Okay, have fun, guys. We'll see you next time.